All right, so when you think about a country, what comes to mind? Probably a map, right? Clear borders, one government calling the shots. But what if I told you that whole idea is getting, well, a little outdated? Today we're going to look at how the traditional nation state is being pulled and pushed from all sides. There's a fancy term for this concept: state sovereignty. And it's a pretty simple idea, really. It just means the government in charge gets the final say inside its own borders. Nobody from the outside gets to tell them what to do. And for centuries, that idea has been the bedrock of how our world is organized. But let's be real. In the world we live in now, with a global internet, trade that crisscrosses the planet, and huge challenges like climate change that don't care about borders, can any country really just operate in its own little bubble? Is that idea of absolute total power even possible anymore? The way to think about it is that the modern state is caught in a giant vice. From the inside, it's being pulled apart by different regions that want more control. We call that devolution. At the same time, from the outside, it's being squeezed by big international groups that demand cooperation. That's supranationalism. So let's break down this pressure cooker. Okay, first up, let's talk about that pull from within. This is all about the powerful forces inside a country that are making central governments completely rethink how they hold everything together. And the key word here is de-evolution. It sounds complicated, but all it really means is that the central government in the capital city hands over some of its authority to smaller regional governments, like states or provinces. Now, here's the thing. Devolution isn't like an on-off switch. It's more of a spectrum. On one end, it could be something as simple as creating a self-governing region, but on the other, far extreme, it can lead to the entire country breaking apart. A lot of countries use devolution as a smart tool to manage diversity. I mean, take Canada. It created the massive territory of Nunavut to give the indigenous Inuit population self-governance. Or think about Spain, which after a long dictatorship gave significant autonomy to 17 different regions, like Catalonia, to help stabilize the nation. It can be a really powerful tool for unity. And sometimes it's a strategic play to keep a country from literally falling apart. Canada did this by giving its French-speaking province of Quebec a whole lot more self-rule to quiet down loud calls for independence. And Nigeria has done this over and over, splitting the country from just 3 states into 36. Why? To basically dilute the power of any single ethnic group so they couldn't get strong enough to break away. But sometimes that internal pull is just too strong to contain. The ultimate example, of course, is the Soviet Union. Demands for independence from its so-called satellite states in Eastern Europe just grew and grew until, poof, the entire thing collapsed, spinning off more than a dozen new independent countries. That is devolution taken to its most dramatic conclusion. Okay, so that's the pull from the inside. Now let's flip it around and look at the other side of that vice, the squeeze from the outside. And this is really interesting because it's all about why powerful sovereign nations would voluntarily choose to give away some of their own power. The word for this is supranationalism. It's basically when countries team up to create a sort of club to work on shared goals. But, and this is a huge but, to be in the club, you have to agree to follow the club's rules, even if you might not like them. So why do it? Why would a country give up any control? Well, because some problems are just way too big for one country to handle alone. Think about it. Can one country stop climate change? No way. Can one country build a globally competitive economy from scratch? It's really tough. Or what about defending against a common enemy? States team up because they know they're stronger together than they are apart. And these clubs are everywhere. You've got the European Union, which has common economic and legal rules for all its members. There's NATO, where an attack on one member is considered an attack on all of them. Even the United Nations is a form of this. It's a forum to talk things out instead of just going to war. Each one asks for a little piece of a nation's sovereignty in exchange for a bigger collective prize. And if you want the perfect real-world example of this constant tension, look no further than Brexit. I mean, the entire years-long debate in the UK really boiled down to one single question. Are the economic perks of being in the EU worth giving up some of our power to make our own rules? And for a majority of voters in 2016, the answer was a clear no. So you've got this internal pull and this external squeeze. What's the one thing that's pouring gasoline on both of these fires? Technology. The digital revolution has completely changed the rules of the game for the nation-state. For centuries, governments could control the flow of information. They own the printing presses and the TV stations. The internet just shattered that model. Now, an idea, a protest, a whole new political movement can zip around the globe in seconds, completely bypassing any government censor.
And that speed changes everything. Just think back to the Arab Spring in the early 2010s. Those massive protests against governments weren't organized by traditional political parties. They were organized by ordinary people on their cell phones, using social media. Technology gives people the tools to challenge the state directly and incredibly fast.
And this really shows us the new reality. Power isn't just concentrated in a central government anymore. It's now this messy, shared thing that's constantly being fought over by regional movements, those big global organizations, and, thanks to technology, networks of everyday citizens. The state is no longer the only major player on the field. So where does all this leave us? Is the nation-state doomed to disappear? Not necessarily, but its job description has definitely changed. It's all about a new balancing act now. And here's the key takeaway. The old idea of absolute sovereignty is pretty much a relic of the past. Today, being in control is all about constant negotiation. It's a nonstop balancing act between what your own people are demanding from within and what the interconnected world requires from without. Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. As we face these huge global crises that no single country can possibly solve on its own, is the idea of the all-powerful nation-state not just outdated, but maybe even a barrier to our survival? Or is it the last line of defense for protecting unique cultures and local identities in a world that's becoming more and more the same? What do you think?